So if Biden's internal polling was showing something close to this map, are they allowed? And they allowed him to run for re-election. This is beyond irresponsible. The Biden campaign apparently had internal polling to show Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes at the same time that they were insisting he was a strong candidate. Okay.
Decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake.
That's crazy. That's a crazy leak. I 100% believe it. And this also corresponds to what I was saying in terms of like almost a 50 like Reagan level landslide if Biden had stayed in the race after Donald Trump got shot. So I feel vindicated in that assessment.
Decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake. It just was. And he and his inner circle, they refused to believe the polls. They refused to believe he was unpopular. They refused to acknowledge until very late that anyone could be upset about inflation. And they just kept telling us that his presidency was historic and it was the greatest economy ever. We just heard him again say that it's the greatest economy ever. Clearly.
There's 0% chance New York goes red with Trump as a candidate. You are wrong. I've told you already. Wait till the final counts come in California. You are going to see a very different reality than the one you think is happening. The margins of victory for New York for Kamala Harris was so bad in comparison to past performance. You do not understand how fucked up this situation is. If you think that there's like a massive swing to the right in like red states or Trump is overperforming or whatever the like that, I think is a consequence of like less blue voters voting there. But in places like New York and California, I do think that there is like an actual genuine right wing, an actual legitimate right wing swing.
Trump gained ground in 49 states and the District of Columbia compared to 2020. I went back through the record books. When was the last time a party gained in so many different places? You have to go all the way back to 1992 when Bill Clinton improved upon Michael Dukakis's performance in 49 states, plus the District of Columbia. The bottom line is no matter where you looked on the map, Kate Baldwin, no matter where you looked, Donald Trump was improving on where he did 4 years ago, except for Washington State. It is no wonder that at this particular point, he looks like he's going to be the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush back in 2004.
And to pull that off, he gained ground with groups that Republicans do not generally count as part of their winning coalition, or really at all. How much ground did he gain?
Yeah, again, holy Toledo. It's just like, oh my goodness gracious. These are the types of groups that you would never have thought that Donald Trump would have gained so much support
oh my goodness gracious.
8 years ago when he first won against Hillary Clinton. Trump's was the...
Why not? His coalition was like more diverse than prior Republican performance anyway, even in 2016.
Best GOP...
and certainly in 2020.
Showing among 18 to 29-year-olds in 20 years. You have to go all the way back to 2004. How about among black voters? It was the best performance for a Republican candidate for president in 48 years since Gerald Ford back in 1976. And among Hispanic voters, the exit polls only go back since 1972. But Donald Trump's performance on Tuesday was the best for a Republican presidential candidate in exit poll history. He literally goes all the way back through history and breaks history. This is what we're talking about, Kate Baldwin. Groups that you never thought that Donald Trump would do well among, even for a Republican candidate, that is what he did. If the 2016 election was about Donald Trump breaking through white work.
Why does he say 2016 and doesn't say 2016 or 216 when he says 1916? I'm calling foul 2016.
Working class voters, this election was about breaking through and going to that Democratic coalition and tearing it apart.
And it wasn't just what he did for his own support. It trickled down to helping the Senate and helping in the House?
Yeah. So, a lot of talk this morning and this week is, the GOP is going to have a Senate majority. We don't know if the Republicans are going to have a House majority, but we think that that's the most likely to be the case. But I want you to look at the 2024 House GOP national vote showing. So this is the House popular vote. Currently, the GOP is ahead by 5 points. I expect that to shrink a little bit as some of the California results come in. But if let's just say he wins, the House GOP wins by more than 2.6 points, it will be the best House GOP showing in a presidential year in the House popular vote since 1928. If there's any viewer out there who is that old, God bless you. But the bottom line is it was probably the best House GOP national vote showing during most of our viewers' lifetimes.
There are
in a presidential year.
Yeah, okay. It's good to see you, Harry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you, John.
Wow. Who would think that running a campaign exclusive for white suburban Republicans would lead to this result? It's insane. Or let's watch this.
80% of voters don't believe that. They don't believe that about their own personal financial situation, but they just keep telling us that. And then after the debate, the Biden people told us that the polls were fine. And Biden was still the strongest candidate. They were privately telling reporters at the time that Kamala Harris couldn't win. So they were shivving Kamala Harris to reporters while they told everyone else, not a time for an open process, and his vice president can't win, so he's the strongest candidate. Then we find out, when the Biden campaign becomes the Harris campaign, that the Biden campaign's own internal polling at the time when they were telling us he was the strongest candidate showed that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes. That's what their own internal polling said.
There were polls showing 80% of voters thought Joe Biden was too old to get a second term before the debate. And then we all watched the debate. And then in the last few weeks, Biden was campaigning, and he said, we need to lock Trump up. He created a controversy over whether Trump supporters were garbage. He said, the weird thing about slapping Trump on the ass. Like, his moments on the campaign trail weren't flawless either.
You cannot.
It's absurd. It's
We
absurd.
can all-
I'm trying to be generous here.
I'm not. I'm done being
I
generous.
want to stay for the record. I also think all the TV money ad should be.
It should be rethought too.
More importantly, the idea that Joe Biden was going to do better in this race than Kamala Harris is on its face absurd.
The Biden campaign apparently had internal polling showing that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes at the same time they were insisting he's a strong candidate. Okay, I know. I want to believe this, but I don't know. I don't know if it's real or not. It's real. Trust me, bro.